Hi, I'm Katie from Heart's Content Farmhouse, and today I want to show you how to make a really good candy cane ice cream at home, totally from scratch. It takes a little bit of time because everything needs a little bit of chilling time and resting time, but it's not hard at all to make your own ice cream. You just need a few simple ingredients. All we need is milk, cream, sugar, vanilla, eggs, and then crushed up candy canes, which you can either buy pre-crushed or you can make your own by just crushing up some candy canes. And it's a really good treat for this time of year that everyone is going to love. So this is going to be a real ice cream, which means we are doing a cooked custard and then we are churning it in an ice cream machine. There are a lot of recipes for no cook, no churn ice cream, but I just don't think they're as good. So this takes a little bit more time than those, but it is definitely worth the effort. So we are going to start by heating up milk, cream, and some sugar in a saucepan. So I'm just going to go ahead and measure out 1.5 cups of whole milk, 1.5 cups of heavy cream, and 1/2 cup of sugar. This is just going to go over your saucepan on medium heat, and it's going to be really warm. It's going to be steaming, and the temperature of this mixture is going to be about 175 degrees. I'm going to put this on the stovetop, heat it up until it's steaming at 175. While that's heating, our next step is to combine eggs and sugar. So we put 1/2 cup of sugar into that milk mixture. We have 1/4 cup of sugar left, and what we're going to do is beat that with our eggs, with our egg yolks, which is 4 egg yolks, and we're just going to do that with a little hand mixer, and we want to beat it until it turns light yellow and it becomes a little bit fluffy. So you could do this by hand with a whisk, and that would take a while, at least 5 minutes. If you do it just with a hand mixer, it's really quick, less than a minute of beating, and you'll see that right away it goes from a really dark yellow to a lighter yellow, and that's how you know it is whipped enough. So I'm just going to check on our milk and sugar mixture. Okay, so the milk and sugar mixture has been heated up on the stove. It's steaming and it's about 175. Now we have to slowly add it into the egg and sugar mixture. We can't just dump it in all at once because the heat will start the eggs cooking, and that will be really gross. So we're going to add it in 1/2 cup at a time and stir each time. But we don't need to add all of it. We just need to add a little bit of it that's hot enough to get these eggs tempered, which means the temperature is brought up a little bit and they're not going to cook. So we don't have to worry about adding exactly half of this. We're just going to take our 1/2 cup, add this in, and stir it as we add it. And again, this is just slowly bringing these eggs up in temperature so that when we heat this whole thing back up, the eggs don't cook. Okay, so about half of that has been put into this bowl, and now we're going to dump this bowl with the tempered eggs back into the saucepan. We're going to put it back on the stove, and we're going to cook it until a custard forms. It takes a little bit longer than the first step on the stove, but still under 10 minutes. So this goes back in. Give it a good stir. Return this to the stove. And what we're looking for at the second stage is for the mixture to get up to 185 degrees and for it to start coating thickly the back of a spoon. That means it's a custard. So our custard has heated up to 185. It is coating the back of a spoon. One thing that you need to make sure of while you're doing the second heating stage is you want to stay right by the stove and keep stirring it because you don't want it to boil and you don't want it to scorch to the bottom of the pan. So the next thing we're going to do is take it off the heat.
Super hot.
Right. So we have it off the heat, and now we need to strain it because even though we were careful to temper those eggs by adding things in little by little, you always get a couple bits of cooked egg, which sounds gross, but once you strain it out, it doesn't affect the taste at all, and it doesn't affect the texture. It's unavoidable, so we have to strain. One thing you can do is set cheesecloth over a bowl and strain it that way, or you can use a mesh strainer. What I use is this Greek yogurt strainer, so it's just like a two-piece thing with a bowl here, a mesh strainer here, and I'm just going to pour this directly in.
That's super hot.
I'm going to let it cool to room temperature, and then I'm just going to put the whole thing in the fridge because this has to be really cold before we can churn it. So once it cools to room temperature, it's going to go in the fridge overnight, and then tomorrow we are going to get this cold custard churned into ice cream. So make sure at this stage you also put your ice cream maker insert freezer part into the freezer because you want both of those chilling for about a day. Thank you. Before you move on to the next stage. So we will be back tomorrow to finish this up. Okay, so we are back. The custard has been chilled in the fridge. It is really cold. My freezer insert has chilled in the freezer and it is also very cold. So we're just gonna pop this in. This is just a really basic electric ice cream maker. Basically all it does is spin, and that is what churns the ice cream. There are way fancier brands, but this one has served me just fine. So before I turn this, there's a couple things I want to add to the custard. I'm going to do just a teaspoon of vanilla. I don't want too much because it's not a true vanilla ice cream. I want that candy cane flavor to come through. And then I'm going to do just a little tiny dash of salt. I'm going to mix this up. And I'm going to pour it into the custard and just turn it on, and that is going to churn. So this is going to turn for about 10 to 15 minutes. When it turns into the consistency of soft serve, I'm going to add the peppermint candies. So after about 10 minutes of churning, my ice cream looks like, I'm going to turn this off. My ice cream in here has gone from a custard to looking like a soft serve ice cream. It's starting to hold its shape, and it definitely looks like ice cream. So at that point, I'm going to add half a cup of my crushed candy canes. I like to buy these if I can find them. You can get pre-crushed candy canes because I think it's really annoying to peel them and then crush them. But I couldn't find them, and I just made my kids do it, and that worked fine. But if you don't have little children helpers, it's actually really annoying to peel and break up candy canes. So I'm going to link for you where you can get them already pre-crushed, and that is easier. So with the machine running, you just add these in and let it really slowly mix through. It will just take a second. So I'm only doing half a cup because I don't like a ton of peppermint candies in mine, but you could go up to a full cup, and I don't think that would be too much. So just use your own judgment with this. And now we are not done. We can't eat it yet. We have to scoop it out of this and then let it harden in the freezer for about 2 to 3 hours before we can eat it. You can buy little ice cream storage things. I just use a loaf pan, and then I press plastic wrap on top, and that works fine for me. I'm going to do that now, and we will come back and have a scoop in a couple hours.